I thought buying a house would finally make me visible. Instead, my living room was a museum of empty chairs and melting canapes. When I checked Instagram, my entire family was already raising glasses at my brother's last-minute housewarming. That was the moment I decided to stop asking for approval and start writing the terms. By the time they rang my doorbell again, I had a plan and a process server. My name is Ava Lockhart, and at 34, I'd finally done what I'd dreamed of since I was 12, bought a house with my own money, my own credit, my own sweat equity. The 1928 Craftsman in Riverton, just outside Denver, had good bones beneath its tired exterior. I'd spent 3 months bringing it back to life with my own hands, stripping wallpaper until my fingers cramped, sanding original hardwood floors on my knees, installing vintage Edison bulbs that cast warm pools of light across freshly painted sage walls. The housewarming was supposed to be my moment. Not my promotion to tech lead at Nimbus Forge Labs, not my patents, not my conference keynotes. This house, this tangible proof that I existed, that I mattered, that I'd built something beautiful from neglect. I'd planned it like I plan product launches. The timeline spreadsheet had color-coded blocks: noon for setup, 1 p.m. For Mom's arrival, she liked being early, 1:30 for Dad and Caleb, 2 p.m. official start. The menu was a diplomatic map of my family's preferences. Mom's favorite spinach artichoke dip, Dad's preferred craft beer, Caleb's gluten-free options even though his celiac diagnosis had mysteriously vanished last year. I'd even created separate Spotify playlists: jazz for arrivals, indie rock for mingling, nostalgic hits for later. At 2 p.m., my kitchen island displayed its careful choreography: champagne flutes catching afternoon light, charcuterie board arranged in Instagram-worthy spirals, homemade sourdough crackers still warm. The multi-room speakers whispered Bill Evans through empty spaces. 2:15 came with the first text: running behind, start without us, Mom. 2:30, traffic crazy, be there soon, Dad. 2:45, nothing. I stood in my doorway, watching the street. Mrs. Patterson walked her corgi. The Amazon truck made its rounds. No familiar cars turned onto my block. At 3 p.m., muscle memory made me check Instagram. The algorithm knew what I needed to see: my cousin Jessica's story, posted 12 minutes ago. There was Mom, raising a champagne flute. There was Dad, arm around Caleb's shoulders. There was my entire extended family: aunts, uncles, cousins I'd specifically invited, crowded into what looked like a modern apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows. Celebrating our boy's new place. The caption read, "So proud." I swiped. More stories. Caleb's apartment had exposed brick industrial fixtures, the kind of downtown loft I'd never wanted but everyone assumed I should. My aunt's video caught Caleb mid-laugh. "Yeah, Ava's got something today too, but you know how she is always trying to compete." The champagne bottle was still cold when I twisted it back into the refrigerator. I walked through my empty house, phone in hand, documenting everything like a crime scene. The untouched food, the wilting flowers I'd arranged in grandmother's vase, the gift bags by the door with each person's name in my careful handwriting. 3:23 p.m. I noted the time in my phone, creating a new album, Evidence, because that's what this was now. Evidence that after 34 years of being the invisible daughter, the reliable one, the one who never needed help or attention or celebration, I'd finally asked for one afternoon. One moment where I wasn't the background to Caleb's spotlight, and they'd chosen him anyway. I sat on my refinished stairs, looking at my empty, perfect room, and made a decision. No more asking, no more hoping. If they wanted to erase me from family moments, I'd build something they couldn't ignore. The doorbell would ring again, weeks later. But by then, everything would be different. By then, I'd have learned to stop apologizing for taking up space in my own life. Growing up in Springfield, Missouri, I learned early that love in the Lockhart family came with conditions I could never quite meet. Our split-level house on Maple Street looked like every other middle-class home in the neighborhood: 2 cars in the driveway, basketball hoop over the garage, Mom's roses climbing the mailbox. But inside, we lived by an unspoken rule. Caleb was the sun, and the rest of us were meant to orbit. I was 7 when I won my first science fair. I'd built a working volcano that actually demonstrated tectonic pressure, not just the vinegar and baking soda trick. Mom patted my head absently while calling everyone to tell them Caleb had learned to tie his shoes. He was 5. Most kids learned at 4. By high school, the pattern was carved in stone. My full scholarship to Missouri S&T warranted a "that's nice honey" over breakfast. Caleb failing algebra meant emergency family meetings, tutors, and Mom's tearful conferences with teachers about her sensitive, gifted boy who just learns differently. I paid my way through college with 3 jobs and graduated summa cum laude with a computer science degree. The family came to graduation and left during my name being called because Caleb had an emergency. He'd locked his keys in his car. I watched them file out from the stage, diploma in hand, smile frozen. Caleb dropped out of college 3 times. Business, then psychology, then art history. Each failure was reframed as him finding himself. Each tuition check Dad wrote was an investment in his journey. When I asked for help during my unpaid internship, eating ramen twice a day, Dad reminded me I'd always been the independent one. At Nimbus Forge Labs, I built myself into someone undeniable. Junior developer to senior engineer to tech lead in 6 years, I led the team that developed our flagship security protocol. My name was on 4 patents. My salary finally broke 6 figures. "That's nice," Mom said when I told her about the promotion. "Oh, before I forget, Caleb's thinking about starting a podcast. Isn't that exciting?" The podcast lasted 3 episodes. Maya Ruiz was the first person who saw it clearly. We'd been working late on a deployment. Empty pizza boxes between us. When she asked why I hadn't mentioned my family was in town, she'd seen Caleb's Instagram stories at a restaurant 10 minutes away. "They didn't tell me they were coming," I said. Maya's silence said everything. After that, she became my reality check, the person who reminded me that normal families celebrated their children's successes equally. She was there when I got the Innovation Award and my parents didn't come. She was there when Caleb announced his 5th career pivot at Thanksgiving and became the day's main event while my promotion went unmentioned. "You could cure cancer," Maya said once, "and they'd find a way to make it about how your success makes Caleb feel inadequate." She wasn't wrong. When I bought my Subaru used Sensible, paid in cash, Mom worried aloud that it might make Caleb feel pressure since he was still driving the BMW they'd bought him after failure number 2. When I started dating Marcus, a stable architect with a kind smile, the family concern was whether it would intimidate Caleb, who was between relationships. Marcus lasted 8 months. He ended it gently. "Honestly, I can't compete with ghosts. Ava, you're still trying to win a game where they've never given you the rules." He was right, but knowing something and changing it are different beasts. The house was supposed to be my declaration of independence. No more apartment living where achievements could be minimized as temporary. This was permanent, rooted, impossible to ignore. I sent them the listing when I made the offer. Mom's response was about how Caleb was also looking at places, despite having no job and credit destroyed by defaults they'd covered. 3 weeks before my housewarming, Caleb casually mentioned at family dinner that he'd found an apartment. "When's your move-in?" I asked. "Oh, whenever," he said, scrolling through his phone. I should have known then. I should have seen the setup. But 34 years of conditioning is hard to break. I still believed that maybe, just once, they'd choose me. The search took 14 months. Every Sunday at 7 a.m., I'd refresh Zillow, Redfin, Realtor, marking possibilities in a spreadsheet with color-coded columns: price, inspection concerns, estimated repairs, ROI projections. Denver's market was brutal: cash offers, bidding wars, houses gone in hours. I lost out on 12 properties, each rejection email another small erasure. The Riverton Craftsman wasn't even listed yet. I found it through a Nimbus Forge colleague whose neighbor had died, estate sale pending. Family overwhelmed. I made an offer that same day. All contingencies waived except inspection. My financial portfolio was a fortress I'd built brick by brick, 800 credit score, 20% down, 6 months reserves. The underwriter barely had questions. "You should get a condo," Dad said when I told him. "Less maintenance. Safer for a single woman." "Houses are money pits," Mom added. "Remember when Caleb's apartment had that leak? Such stress for him." Caleb's apartment, the one they co-signed for. Closing day came in March. The seller's daughter handed me the keys with red eyes. "Mom loved this house. She'd be happy someone who appreciates craftsmanship is taking it." Why, I sat on the original hardwood floors that afternoon, running my fingers across scratches and stories, making lists in my project management app. The house needed everything new electrical to code, kitchen cabinets falling off hinges, bathroom tiles cracked like spider webs. The inspection report was 47 pages of expensive problems. I created a Gantt chart for renovations, scheduled around my sprint cycles at work. Nights and weekends became my construction education via YouTube University. I learned the difference between joint compound and spackle, how to identify load-bearing walls, why you never trusted the previous owner's DIY electrical work. The kitchen came first. I couldn't afford contractors for everything, so I did what I could myself, stripping cabinets down to wood, sanding until my arms screamed, painting them sage green at 2 a.m., with work lights clipped to sawhorses. I installed the subway tile backsplash 1 square at a time, watching videos between each row, redoing sections that weren't perfect. My hands tell the story cuts from removing old fixtures, chemical burns from stripping agents, splinters that worked their way out weeks later. I hired professionals for the critical stuff: electrical panel upgrade, gas line for the stove, structural beam repair in the basement. Each invoice hurt, but the spreadsheet said I could manage it. Maya came over most Saturdays, bringing coffee and muscle. We hauled old carpeting to the dump, assembled IKEA furniture with wine breaks, painted the guest room listening to true crime podcasts. She never asked why my family didn't help. She already knew. By May. The transformation was undeniable. Original floors glowed honey gold under restored light fixtures from architectural salvage. The kitchen hummed with new appliances I'd bought on Memorial Day sales. Built-in shelves showcased the books I'd been storing in boxes since college. Every room held intention, my choices, my sweat. The housewarming invitations took 3 days to design. Clean typography on quality cardstock, local print shop that still did letterpress. I hand-addressed each envelope with fountain pen, muscle memory from thank you notes Mom had drilled into me but never required from Caleb. Saturday, June 15th, 2 p.m., celebrating new beginnings at the Lockhart house. I mailed them 3 weeks early, tracking numbers on family members' packages. Mom texted immediately. "How fancy will be there?" Dad sent a thumbs-up emoji. Caleb didn't respond, but the tracking showed delivered. I sent follow-ups 1 week out. "Can't wait to see everyone Saturday. Let me know about dietary restrictions." The responses came in, "Wouldn't miss it. Looking forward to it. So proud of you, Thursday before the party." I confirmed via text. Everyone said yes. Friday night. I prepped until 3 a.m., marinating chicken, making dips from scratch, arranging flowers in vases collected from estate sales. The house smelled like possibility and garlic, rosemary and fresh paint. I fell asleep on the couch, surrounded by lists, believing that tomorrow would be different. Saturday morning. I woke at 6 a.m., spine aching but heart light. Coffee, shower. The dress I'd bought specifically for this, professional but soft. The kind of thing that said, successful but approachable. I adjusted the multi-room speakers, tested the playlist, arranged and rearranged the appetizer layout. At 1 p.m., I stood in my doorway, watching for cars, believing in change. By 3 p.m., I understood some people build houses, and some people burn them down. I was done being the one holding the matches to my own dreams. The first crack in my composure came at 3:47 p.m., when Cousin Jessica posted another story. I watched my mother hug Caleb in his new kitchen, her hands cupping his face the way she did when he was little and had nightmares. The caption, "My baby's first place." Can't believe he did this all on his own. All on his own. With their co-signature, their deposit, their credit. My phone buzzed. Finally, someone remembering. But it was Jessica. Sorry, confused about today. Caleb said his was the only housewarming, didn't want to miss yours, but he said you postponed. I screenshot the message. Added it to my evidence folder. Then came the flood. Aunt Patricia. Caleb mentioned you canceled Uncle Rob. Your mom said something came up with your house. Each message another twist of the knife. Each lie more elaborate than the last. At 4:12 p.m., Maya arrived. She took one look at my untouched spread, my rigid posture, and pulled me into a hug that nearly broke me. We sat in my perfect empty living room, eating $60 worth of aged manchego in silence while she held my phone, screening the incoming messages. He sent a group text, she said finally, showing me the family thread I'd been excluded from. Yesterday at 11 p.m., said you'd had a plumbing disaster, postponed indefinitely, but his place was ready for an impromptu gathering. I looked at the timestamp. I'd been 3 feet away from my phone at 11 p.m., applying furniture polish to my grandmother's sideboard. No disaster, no postponement, just erasure, surgical and complete. We opened the champagne at 5 p.m., not to celebrate, but because leaving it unopened felt like surrender. Maya raised her glass. To houses that no one can take away. The doorbell rang at 9:23 p.m. Mom stood on my porch in the same outfit from Instagram, smile wide and false. Hi, honey. How was your day? We missed you at Caleb's. You missed me. The words came out ice-sharp. At the housewarming you knew I was having today. Her face cycled through expressions, confusion, offense, the wounded look she deployed when caught. Sweetie, you canceled. Caleb said, I have the invitations, Mom, the RSVPs, the text confirmations from yesterday. I held up my phone. Evidence folder open. I have screenshots of him saying I postponed. When exactly did I cancel? You're being dramatic. The shift was instant, from wounded to accusatory. You always do this, make everything a competition. Can't you just be happy for your brother? Happy that he deliberately scheduled his housewarming on the same day as mine? Happy that he told everyone I canceled? Happy that my entire family chose to believe him without even asking me? He didn't mean. He copied my invitation design. Mom, look. I showed her the side-by-side comparison I'd made while drinking champagne with Maya. Same font, same border, same wording, except his was urgent and sent yesterday. She pushed past me into my house, uninvited, looking around with calculating eyes. Well, you've certainly spent a lot. I hope you're not overextended. You know how you get with your projects. My projects. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Like my degree, my career. This house I bought myself while you're still paying Caleb's rent. That's different. He needs support. And I don't. You never have before. The truth of it hung between us. Decades of assumption crystallized in 5 words. I was the one who didn't need, who didn't deserve, who existed to not exist. Get out. Ava. Get out of my house. Mom. You're overreacting. This is what you do. Blow things out of proportion. Remember when you threw that fit about graduation? You left. During my name being called. Caleb had an emergency. He locked his keys in his car. Dad had AIA. You're being selfish. Family supports each other. Family shows up. Mom, family doesn't sabotage each other's moments. Family doesn't erase. My voice cracked, and I hated myself for it. She softened, switching tactics. Honey, you're 34. Don't you think it's time to stop seeking so much validation? Caleb's younger. He's 32. You know what I mean. I did. I'd always known. The math was simple. Caleb's needs plus my invisibility equals family harmony. Any deviation from the formula was selfishness, dramatics, me making everything about myself by asking to be included in my own life. Leave, I said quietly, and don't come back until you can explain why you chose him. Not excuses, not gaslighting. The truth. She left in a huff of indignation, already texting the family thread I couldn't see. By 10 p.m., my phone was buzzing with flying monkeys. Your mom's crying. Why are you doing this? Caleb didn't mean anything by it. I turned off my phone, poured another glass of champagne, and sat in my empty, beautiful house, understanding finally that the only person who would ever fight for my visibility was me. Dad showed up 3 days later, Tuesday at 6:15 p.m., still in his work clothes. He stood on my porch holding grocery store flowers, the cheap kind from the bucket by checkout. At least he came alone. Your mother's upset, he started. I'm upset too. You know how she is about Caleb. I do. That's the problem. We sat in my kitchen, the one I'd rebuilt with my own hands. He accepted coffee but didn't drink it, just turned the mug in circles, leaving rings on my restored butcher block. Finally, he said what he came to say. Caleb told us about his housewarming 2 weeks ago. We knew it was the same day. The admission hit like cold water. You knew. He said you'd be fine with it, said you'd probably cancel anyway, you always get too ambitious with your plans. Your mother thought it would be easier to avoid the conflict. Easier for who? He couldn't meet my eyes. You've always been the strong one. Ava, Caleb falls apart when things don't go his way. You bounce back. Because I have to. Because no one catches me when I fall. That's not, name one time, I interrupted. One single time you chose me over his comfort. The silence stretched. He opened his mouth twice, closed it. We both knew there wasn't one. I'm seeing a therapist, I said. Started yesterday. He winced like I'd admitted to crime. That seems extreme. Extreme is letting my family erase me for 34 years. Dr. Patricia Morgan's office was nothing like the sterile spaces I'd imagined. Warm colors, soft chairs, a white noise machine that sounded like rain. She was 60-something with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. Tell me why you're here, she said in our first session. My family threw me away for a housewarming party. Tell me about the family you had before the party. That's when I understood. The party was just the breaking point. The pattern was decades old. She introduced me to terms I'd never heard but recognized immediately. Golden child and scapegoat. Emotional neglect. Parentification. Gaslighting. Each word a name for something I'd lived but couldn't articulate. Your brother isn't the problem, she said in our third session. He's the symptom. Your parents created this dynamic. They maintain it. And you've been trained to enable it by shrinking yourself. So what do? You stop shrinking. But first, you need to understand what you're actually fighting. We mapped it out like I'd map a software architecture. The family system required my invisibility to function. Every success I had threatened the narrative that Caleb needed special treatment. So they minimized, dismissed, erased, and I'd learned to present my achievements in whispers, to apologize for existing too loudly. The housewarming, Dr. Morgan said, was you breaking protocol? You asked them to celebrate you, specifically and only you. That's why Caleb had to sabotage it. The system can't allow you to be centered. He's 32 years old. Chronologically. But this dynamic froze him in childhood. He doesn't know who he is without being the special one. And your parents don't know how to parent without a crisis to manage. So I'm supposed to feel sorry for them. You're supposed to understand the game so you can stop playing it. Maya came with me to session 5. At Dr. Morgan's suggestion, outside perspective, she called it. Maya laid out what she'd witnessed over 3 years with clinical precision. The graduation they missed, the promotion they dismissed, the way they talked about me versus Caleb when they mentioned me at all. It's like watching someone slowly disappear, Maya said. You make yourself smaller every time they're around. That night, I made a decision. Not to cut them off that felt like running, but to show up differently, to stop asking for permission to exist, to document everything, to protect myself legally if needed. You're planning something, Dr. Morgan observed in session 6. I'm done being the family ghost. If they want to paint me as the villain for having boundaries, I'm going to make sure I have receipts. Receipts. Evidence. Documentation. The kind that holds up in court if needed. She leaned forward. What kind of court? The kind that handles restraining orders. Small claims. Defamation if it comes to that. I met her eyes. I'm a project manager. I document everything. And I just realized my family has been running a 34-year project to erase me. Time to file a bug report. This isn't about revenge. No, I said, and meant it. It's about building a door they can't walk through uninvited anymore. The plan started forming that night. Clear, methodical, legally bulletproof. If they wanted to play games with my reality, I'd show them what reality looked like in black and white, with timestamps and filing numbers. The investigation started with emails. I pulled 3 years of family communications, searching for patterns. Every declined invitation to my events versus immediate attendance at Caleb's. Every "we'll see" that became "no" for me. Every "absolutely" for him. I built a spreadsheet with columns for date, event, response, actual attendance. The data was damning. Then came the social media audit. I used web scraping tools to catalog every family post from the last year. Caleb appeared in 87% of Mom's photos. I appeared in 4%, usually in background or group shots. Dad's Facebook featured 12 posts celebrating Caleb's journey. My promotion got a shared article about women in tech with no personal comment. The housewarming evidence was more intricate. I'd saved the original invitation templates in my Google Drive, timestamped and version controlled. When I compared metadata from the family group chat Maya got screenshots of, Caleb's invitation used my exact template. He'd downloaded it from the shared folder Mom insisted we use for family coordination, modified it, and sent it out claiming urgent timing. But the real discovery came when I dove into property records. Caleb's apartment wasn't a rental. It was a condo, purchased 2 months ago. The deed was public record. Caleb Lockhart and Lorraine Lockhart, joint tenants. My mother had co-purchased a $500,000 property with him while telling me I should rent because property is such a burden. I cross-referenced with social media. 2 months ago, Mom posted about supporting our children's dreams. The same week I'd told them about my house closing. Maya helped me dig deeper. We found the utilities. Caleb's electric was under Mom's name. Internet under Dad's. But here's where he made a mistake. He'd used my information for a premium streaming package, probably lifted from a Christmas gift I'd given the family last year. The account showed billing to his address, but verification emails to mine. I documented everything. Screenshots, PDFs, archived pages. My evidence folder grew to 200 files, organized by date and category. Then I started building the legal framework. Small claims court allows for damages up to $10,000 in Colorado. My housewarming had cost $3,000 in food, flowers, and preparations. The emotional distress wasn't calculable, but intentional interference with social relations was. I researched precedents, found similar cases where family members had deliberately sabotaged events. The restraining order was trickier. Colorado requires credible threat of harm, but harassment includes a pattern of behavior meant to cause emotional distress. I had Mom's uninvited entry to my home, the gaslighting texts, the coordinated family messages calling me unstable for being upset. Eleanor Parks lived 3 houses down, a retired attorney who'd complimented my restoration work. I brought her coffee and documentation one Saturday morning. "This is comprehensive," she said, flipping through my evidence binder. "But family court is different. Judges see this as drama, not damages." "What if it's not about winning?" She looked up sharply. "Explain. What if it's about making them realize I'm serious, that I won't be erased anymore? The paperwork alone makes it real court stamps, case numbers, process servers. They can't pretend it didn't happen." She smiled slowly. "Psychological leverage through legal framework. I like it." We refined the approach. Small claims for the party damages. Clear-cut and documentable. Civil harassment warning, not a full restraining order, but official notice that further unwanted contact would escalate. and the master stroke a cease and desist for defamation, specifically addressing claims I was unstable, dramatic, or attention-seeking for expecting basic reciprocity. You need a public moment. Eleanor said, court is private, but service of papers that can happen anywhere. The open house charity night started as Maya's idea. Don't retreat, she said. Reload, throw another party, but this time, make it bulletproof. We scheduled it for July 20th, 5 weeks after the original disaster. This time, invitations went through Eventbrite, public and trackable. The cause Homes for Heroes. Helping veterans secure housing was unassailable. Local news got a press release. My company offered to match donations. I invited the family through certified mail. Signature required. The invitation was perfect corporate passive aggression. The Lockhart family is cordially invited to support our Veterans Housing Initiative. Your presence would be noted. Mom called within hours. What is this supposed to mean? It means you're invited to a charity event at my home. That's not what I meant. Then I don't understand the question. Ava, this is ridiculous. You're making such a big deal. I'm raising money for veterans. Mom, is that a problem? She hung up. I hired a photographer, a caterer, professional bartenders. The evening would be documented in timestamps and receipts. Maya would MC, keeping everything smooth while I played host. And in my office safe, sealed envelopes waited, one for Caleb, one for Mom. Eleanor had helped word them perfectly legal enough to scare, human enough to sting. The process server was a young woman named Diana, cheerful and ruthless. Family drama, she asked, reviewing the papers. Family clarity, I corrected. She laughed. I love these. They never see it coming from the quiet ones. No, they never did, but they would. The house glowed with warmth by 7 p.m. Every room had purpose now. The dining room displayed silent auction items. The living room held conversation clusters. The kitchen island became a donation station with QR codes and credit card readers. 60 people moved through my spaces. Colleagues from Nimbus Forge, neighbors I'd met during renovation, Maya's network of Denver professionals who understood what supporting each other meant. The photographer captured everything the Veterans Housing Director explaining their mission, neighbors bidding on auction items, my team lead raising a toast to spaces that shelter dreams. This was the housewarming I'd imagined, except better it had purpose beyond my own validation. At 8:23 p.m., they arrived. I saw Dad's car first, that careful parallel park he'd taught me when I was 16. They entered as a unit, Mom in her defensive armor of designer clothes, Dad in his conflict avoidance khakis, Caleb with his phone already raised, recording before he'd crossed the threshold. Welcome, I said, voice carrying across the room. So glad you could make it to support our veterans. Mom's smile was titanium. Of course we came. Sweetie, family supports, family. Maya appeared at my elbow with perfect timing. Mrs. Lockhart, let me show you to the donation table. The suggested amount is $100, but many people are giving more. Caleb lowered his phone slightly. Pretty fancy for someone who claims she's struggling. I never claimed I was struggling, I replied evenly. That's your narrative. Would you like to see the renovation timeline? Maya put together a wonderful presentation. The presentation was already running on the living room TV, a slideshow of before and after photos, each time-stamped. But Maya had added something special. Between the renovation photos were screenshots my original invitation, the family group chat, Instagram stories from June 15th, side by side, time-stamped, undeniable. The room grew quiet as people noticed. My neighbor Tom whistled low. Wait, is that the same day? Technical difficulties, Maya said smoothly. Let me advance the slides. Oh, here's the bathroom transformation. But the damage was done. Every few slides, another piece of evidence appeared. Caleb's copied invitation. Mom's proud of my boy post. The empty chairs at 2 p.m. The full apartment at 2:30 p.m. Turn it off, Mom hissed. It's automated, Maya lied cheerfully. The whole evening is scheduled. Would you like some wine? Caleb raised his phone higher. Streaming live. My sister's having another meltdown, guys. Watch this manipulation. Actually, Eleanor Parks stepped forward, legal authority radiating from her small frame. I'd be very careful about live streaming in a private residence without consent. Colorado is a one-party consent state for recording, but streaming for defamation purposes carries different liabilities. Who the hell are you? Eleanor Parks, attorney. Also, a neighbor who watched Ava work 18-hour days to rebuild this house while you were, finding yourself? The room had gone fully silent now. Everyone watching. Mom tried to salvage. This is a family matter? No, I said clearly. It's not. Not anymore. Diana appeared as if summoned, though we'd planned her entrance for 8:30 p.m. Exactly. She wore neutral professional clothes, carried a messenger bag, looked like any other guest until she spoke. Caleb Lockhart. He turned, confused. Yeah. She handed him the envelope with practiced efficiency. You've been served. Small claims court for damages related to intentional interference with contract and social relations. Have a good evening. She pivoted to Mom before anyone could react. Lorraine Lockhart. This is for you. Civil harassment warning and cease and desist for defamation. All communication going forward should go through the email listed. The silence was exquisite. 60 people watched my family receive legal papers at a charity event they'd tried to skip, then sabotage, then hijack. Caleb ripped open his envelope, face reddening as he read. $3,000 for a party. You're insane. Check page 2, I suggested. The itemized list includes screenshots of you admitting to deliberately scheduling your event to conflict with mine, your own Instagram Live, saying you wanted to show her she's not special, your words, Caleb, time-stamped. Mom's hands shook as she read her papers. A restraining order. Harassment warning, I corrected. The restraining order comes if you show up uninvited again or continue telling people I'm unstable for expecting basic reciprocity. This is ridiculous. This is documented. I gestured to the photographer, who'd captured everything. This is witnessed. This is real. The property manager from Caleb's building. Tom's +1. A beautiful coincidence chose that moment to speak up. Oh, wow. You're the guy from 4B. The one who threw that rager that violated occupancy limits. We sent a warning about the lease violation. Caleb went white. That was a family gathering. 43 people in a 2-bedroom unit. We have security footage. Your next violation triggers eviction proceedings. He turned to me. Beautiful house. By the way, these old craftsmen have such character. You planned this, Mom accused. I planned a charity event. You planned to make it about you. The difference is, I kept receipts. Dad finally spoke. Ava, this has gone too far. No, Dad. It hasn't gone far enough. I turned to address the room. My family. Everyone. I'm not asking for apologies or reconciliation. I'm establishing boundaries. My house, my life, my terms. You can respect them or you can stay away. But you don't get to erase me anymore. The room erupted in applause. Actual applause. Started by Maya but carried by everyone who'd watched the slides, witnessed the serving, understood what they were seeing, someone refusing to be diminished. Caleb stormed out, still recording, shouting about lawsuits and manipulation. Mom followed, tears that might have been real or performed. Dad lingered at the door. The trust, I told him quietly. The Lockhart Living Trust I established for this house. It's ironclad. No claims, no access, no arguments about inheritance. This is mine. He nodded slowly and left without a word. The party continued for another hour after they left. People donated generously. We raised $8,000 for Homes for Heroes that night. Tom's wife bought the auction's centerpiece, a local artist's painting of Denver's skyline. My boss made a speech about creating spaces where people could thrive. No one mentioned the scene with my family directly, but the warmth in that room was different now, protective, intentional, real. Maya helped me clean up after everyone left, moving through my house with the familiarity of chosen family. We didn't talk about what had happened. We didn't need to. She'd been there for all of it, the only witness who mattered. At 11:47 p.m., Mom stood at my door again, alone this time. No Dad as buffer, no Caleb as excuse, just her, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. "Don't," I said before she could speak. "Whatever you're here to say, justify, guilt, threaten, I don't want to hear it." She held the envelope from Diana, now crumpled from being read and reread. "This is real. You'd take your own mother to court. You took my housewarming and gave it to Caleb. You co-signed his mortgage while telling me property was a burden. You've spent 34 years telling me I don't need support while hemorrhaging money on his failures." "He's different." "Yes," I agreed. "He is. He's the one you chose. Every time, without fail, you chose him, and that's fine. That's your choice. But I'm done pretending it doesn't happen." She stood there, searching for words that might undo legal documents, witnesses, timestamps. Finding none, she defaulted to her last weapon. "You'll regret this when we're gone." "I regret the 34 years I spent invisible while you were here." She turned to leave, then paused. "The house is beautiful," she said quietly. "You did a wonderful job." It was the first genuine compliment about something I'd achieved she'd given me in years, maybe ever. And it came only after I'd forced her to see me through legal papers and public embarrassment. "I know," I said, and closed the door. The small claims hearing was scheduled for August. Caleb didn't show. Default judgment in my favor, $3,000 plus court costs. He paid through an electronic transfer, no message attached. The harassment warning stood unopposed. Mom and Dad became careful ghosts, existing only in forwarded holiday cards addressed to occupant. But here's what I didn't expect: the freedom. Without the constant weight of seeking their approval, I bloomed in ways I hadn't imagined. My work improved. I got promoted to senior tech lead, then principal engineer. I dated without worrying whether they'd approve. I traveled without guilt about missing family events that would have centered Caleb anyway. I filled my house with chosen family who celebrated my victories and showed up for my struggles. Dr. Morgan called it post-traumatic growth. I called it finally breathing. 6 months later, on a random Tuesday, Dad texted, "Caleb lost the condo. Foreclosure. Your mother is devastated." I stared at the message for a long time, waiting to feel something: sympathy, vindication, anything. Instead, I felt the peculiar lightness of a story that no longer involved me. I archived the message without responding. My house became what I'd always imagined: a space for gathering, creating, living. The walls held art from local creators, photographs from trips I took without apology, degrees and awards displayed without shame. The guest room hosted friends passing through Denver, colleagues needing refuge, strangers who became family through the simple act of being welcomed. One evening, as spring light filtered through the restored windows, I stood in my kitchen preparing dinner for friends. Maya was telling a story about her latest dating disaster. Our colleague James was mixing cocktails with theatrical flair, and Tom from next door had brought his famous brownies. Laughter filled every corner, natural and unforced. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, local area code. I almost didn't answer, but something made me accept the call. "Is this Ava Lockhart?" A woman's voice, professional but kind. "Yes. This is Melissa from the Denver Post. We're doing a feature on women in tech who've transformed historic properties. Your neighbor Eleanor Parks suggested we talk to you." I looked around my kitchen at the friends who'd shown up, the space I'd claimed, the life I'd built without permission or apology. "I'd be happy to talk," I said. "This house has quite a story." And for the first time, I knew the story wasn't about what I'd lost or who hadn't shown up. It was about what I'd built from the empty spaces, the family I'd chosen, the door I'd learned to lock, and the moments when I stopped asking for permission to exist in my own life. The door was mine. The house was mine. The life was mine. And I'd never again give anyone else the key. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your own thoughts about family boundaries or finding your voice. Sometimes the best conversations happen in the comments section, where we realize we're not alone in these experiences.